riding on an eastbound freight train, speeding through the night. Hobo Bill, a railroad bum, was fighting
Oh,
for
hey,
his
it's
life.
Paul F. Tompkins, everybody.
Oh, hi there, Ian.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
You mind if I sit down? It looks like you're waiting for somebody.
I'm waiting for a guy like you to come along.
Very nice. Ooh, and you even brought your own Colt 45. So
Just in case.
wherever there is one, you know I will show up.
That's right.
Paul F. Tompkins, I'm sorry. You might recognize from Mr. Show, the sketch show featuring Kelsey Grammer. Dag.
Sure.
Yeah, Dag. And you got your start in Philadelphia.
Yes, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Nah, not to be confused with Maine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And how'd you start doing this wacky comedy thing?
Well, it's a funny story, Ian. Not really, but it is a story.
All right.
I'd always wanted to do stand-up, but I was never sure how to go about it. And I had a friend of mine who was a little bit older in high school who went to Arizona State and started getting into stand-up out there, and then came back to Philly and said, "You want to get an act together?" And that was it. We cobbled something together, and we were a team for about a year and a half. Then we started hating each other, which is what happens with comedy teams. And then I just kept doing it by myself. And
Despite him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tell me that I'm not good enough.
And do you credit that for your meteoric rise? The sheer, the best revenge is living well.
Yeah, if meteors are super slow, then yes.
Okay.
Like one of those slow-moving meteors.
Okay. Yeah, I can't imagine there's a booming comedy scene in Philadelphia.
That's where you're right. Yeah, what was great about I started around the time of the comedy boom in the late 80s, and there was a lot of work in the city and in the suburbs and all that stuff, so you didn't have to travel that far from home to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
Then the bottom dropped out, and I was back to being broke.
Yeah.
So I moved to Los Angeles in 1994.
How long did it take you to get on the well-known Mr. Show? Because that started, 95?
95, yeah, and I started working on that in 96, so I was pretty lucky.
Yeah.
I was pretty lucky. And it's pretty hateful how quickly I managed to secure gainful employment in show business.
And well-known gainful employment. And how much of that has come back kind of retroactively? Because it used to be
yeah.
it used to be a rich man show, because you had to have the pay cable.
Absolutely. It's for all those fat cats.
Yeah.
People watching through their monocles at
Uh-huh.
home. It went from occasionally being recognized from that show to even more occasionally being recognized from that show. But it was a great thing. Yeah, it went from being like a cult hit to a little bit less of a cult.
Yeah. A very large cult.
Yes.
Like
yeah,
more
a
of an
really
organized
successful
religion.
one. Like Scientology.
Okay, very nice. And what was it like working in an environment like that? Because it was all, how many, you guys tape new episodes pretty much every week.
Yeah.
And how involved were you with the writing? Talking about, just two comedians starting to hate each other. How quickly are 10 going to start turning on each other and breaking out knives?
It was a room full of hate.
Yeah.
We actually got along pretty well, I think, despite the grueling circumstances, because we were all writing and performing in every episode, and it was sketch, so we were doing stuff on location and doing stuff live, so it was a lot of work in a very small amount of time. But I still look back at that. It's amazing that it retains the quality that it does.
Yeah.
Under the circumstances. You know what? I was gonna hop this freight, but
yeah,
let's hang out for a while.
Yeah, if that's cool with you. There's gonna be another 1.5 hours.
Exactly.
Just like men. Yeah. Now, as a byproduct of Mr. Show, you also became in the fan favorite, a member of the Tenacious D television program.
So long, guys.
Yeah.
My old hobo pals.
Yeah.
Stumps, Whiskey Pete. See you, fellas. See you in the next town.
Ah, the rails. Such a romantic place to be.
Graffiti. Why do they have to? Yes, Tenacious D was that was a really fun thing to be a part of, and I wish we could have done more of those. But I just got to be in the movie, which is in post-production right now, and I reprise my role of the open mic host. And I actually have a few more scenes, and I realized recently that I can't be cut out because my stuff is married to too many important things. So my part is safe and secure.
Very good. Now, and there are only 8 episodes or 8 15-minute vignettes or something like that. There's 6. Well, there's less than 10.
Let's say less than 10.
And somehow, this just really took off yet again due to people just trading tapes around. And did you see that pick up, walking around town, oh my God, you're the guy that's asked to read things?
Oh yeah. That picked up even faster than Mr. Show. It was insane. And then once Jack Black kind of really took off, it became even more insane. Like I used to open for those guys live. They do live dates, and I remember when it was just like a sort of fun kind of thing to do to when it became this monster experience.
Yeah.
And the first time I did it after it became huge, I barely got out of there alive. Like if I had not been connected with the TV show, if I'd just been a comic,
you would have.
They would have killed me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was basically like an inside joke to start. Like everybody just kind of thought it was funny, and then next thing you know, the frat boys love the Tenacious D.
Oh, they do indeed.
And what's the crossover there? What do you think the appeal is for your general Phi app?
People like energy and swearing.
Yeah.
And the D have that in abundance.
Yeah.
And you really can't go wrong, especially if you're hammered.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Tenacious D, the pick of destiny. You got any spoilers for the hardworking
I
Drink with
would
the
dream of spoiling this film. And I did call it a film. It's going to be really funny. Like, I read the script and, I thought it was funny and, this will be fun to do. And then actually seeing the stuff executed, and I got to watch some dailies and everything, it's really going to be hilarious. It's really going to be hilarious.
Now, after that, or maybe during that, let's just say after that, you went over to England to tape a little television show.
Very little.
Called The Sketch Show. Now, is it featuring Kelsey Grammer or is it just with Kelsey Grammer?
Oh, it was Kelsey Grammer presents The Sketch Show. Yes, it was even grander than you can imagine.
Yeah.
We like to call it Kelsey Grammer Resents The Sketch Show, since he never showed up in England to do any of the stuff. We taped
really?
with
so
him.
This is all like, okay.
Oh yeah, we taped with Mr. Grammer the day after we got back from 2 months of being in London. Got back to America at 9:30 at night, and then, so be here on the lot at 7 in the morning. And
Mr. Grammer will see you.
Yeah, Mr. Grammer will see you. We'll redo some of the sketches we already did in England, but with Kelsey in them as a choice.
Yeah.
But we were also thrilled to be back. By that point, we didn't care. We would have shot all day long.
Yeah.
That show didn't work out so well.
Now, did you see this while you were taping? It was this like one of those things?
Yeah.
This wasn't this is going to be great. I can see in the editing, I can see this all come together in a beautiful package.
It became apparent very, very quickly. We had producers who wanted us to just sort of replicate the original, performances of the British cast.
Yeah, because this was very popular. Unlike in America, it was a very popular British show.
Yeah, for a very brief period of time. It was popular for a very brief period of time.
Okay.
They got 2 seasons out of it, 12 episodes, and then
which is like 190 sketches, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. And like the idea of it wasn't bad. Fast sketches and sort of one joking out, but it was the jokes themselves. I think that there was a problem there. I mean, it's puns and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that when you're trying to sell that to America, you have to let the American performers give American performances, and it became very clear very early that there is a big difference between the way we do things and the way they do things, and it's not necessarily going to work, here, and it didn't.
Yeah. Now, was it an all like British crew? I mean, were they basically telling you what was funny?
Yeah, not really. I mean, most of the people were pretty cool, but we did have a producer who, didn't feel that comedy was subjective. That it's either funny or it's not.
Yeah.
And if it's been funny once this way, then that's the only way that it's funny. And it was an enormously frustrating experience, and I felt like I was the only one who knew that this was going to be a huge failure. And I was right, so I get some comfort.
Yeah,
I suppose.
and this isn't even one of those things where you thought, well, maybe a second season we'll take care of all of that.
No, you know what I did? I thought if we could stay on the air long enough that maybe we could kind of do it right. Shoot it in America for American audiences. I mean, it's a tough thing to be Americans performing for a British studio audience, and the producers would say, well, it's 50% American out there tonight. Well, in America, it's 100% American, and you don't have to worry about, whether or not they're going to get little subtleties in language and things like that, because we just ended up Americanizing the British sketches and saying elevator instead of lift and stuff like that, and, it just didn't work.
Now, do you think you were kind of cast on the show because of the experience on Mr. Show? I mean, because you were also reunited.
No, because the first round of casting, I did not make the second cut, and then it was the network. It was Fox who said, "Are you guys crazy? This guy is really good. We need to have him on this show."
Yeah.
So then I got to kind of go back in for the network audition.
Wow, you were actually picked by Fox.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah.
That's almost like good news and bad news
Exactly.
at the same time.
It was enormously flattering, question mark.
Yeah. And do you consider yourself kind of spoiled working in an environment like Mr. Show and then going to something very regimented?
That spoiled me for the rest of my career, because it was, a show where everyone cared about what they were doing, and I just haven't had that experience many times since then. These were guys who had an enormous clarity of vision. They knew exactly what they were doing, what they were all about, and they put in a lot of time to make sure that it was done right. It was the hardest thing on that show. If you remember, there were the little links between the scenes. So everything kind of led into everything else, and it was very important to them and to all of us that they be little scenes unto themselves, and that it wasn't just always as easy as coming out of a newspaper photo or coming out of a commercial on TV. Yeah, exactly. So it was that was tough, and we would spend many a late night, working on those things. But rather than just kind of throwing up our hands and saying that's good enough, there was always an effort to make it good.
You're changing things little by little in LA. You have the Paul F. Tompkins show. Now tell me about this, because this isn't something that's taped for television. This is just basically you, a gaggle of friends, and a stage, if I understand.
It was something that, it's a variety show, and it's something that I wanted to do just purely creatively, without trying to get, networks down to see it. It was just, there's enough of that in my life, trying to maintain my career, and I thought I just want to do something that's going to be fun. And it ended up being the most fun thing I've ever done. It's music and comedy, and I get to work with amazing people like Dave Foley and Andy Richter, and Jack Black has done the show a couple times, and then musicians like Amy Mann and Fiona Apple and Nickel Creek and stuff like that. It's enormously satisfying to do.
And how much longer do you see yourself doing that? Is that something that could just go on forever?
Yeah, I'll keep doing it. Whether it gets on television or not, I'll keep doing it, because it's just a lot of fun, and it's been like 3.5 years now, so I feel like I've really, it's evolved over that time where it's really nice and tight, and it's a fun show. It's been sold out since the very first performance, and it seems like people keep coming back, because even though they don't know what's going to be on the show necessarily, they trust me enough that it's going to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it's worth $10.
Yeah. Hey. Well, Paul, thanks for hanging out with us. I hope your friend shows up. I better head back to the studio. They're probably wondering where the hell I am.
Ian, my friend already did show up.
Oh, too kind. Mind if I take the beer?
Please do.
All right. Catch you on the flip side, man. Thanks.
All right, take care.